If you want to save your firm time, you're going to want to make sure that you take the time to set these things up in the beginning to save your firm time later on. Hello, and welcome to Cass Loves Tech. Today we're going to be spending some time talking about one of my favorite topics, and it is how attorneys and law firms can optimize time management utilizing their case management system, affectionately known as CRM, or practice management system. I recently was having a conversation with a new client, and one of the things that we talked about was in ways in which the attorney and their firm can benefit from utilizing their system as a way to be more efficient. And it had me thinking that that would be a really amazing topic for the channel. And I'll be honest with you, if you're an attorney or a law firm and you're struggling to get time back into your day, then this video is for you. Now, I will prepare you by saying your law firm practice management system is the real MVP in this video. So if you're not in love with your systems, and you're not in love with your case management system that you're using, then that might be in a different conversation, and this video may just have you thinking of some of the ways that you can ensure that your system is updated or revamped for success, or possibly even start getting the conversation going about moving into a different case management system. Any way you take it, this video will help you right out the gate to become more efficient in optimizing time management within your firm. So let's go ahead and jump into some of those ways. So here are 9 ways that your firm can potentially optimize some time management savings and become more efficient utilizing their practice management system. Number 1, efficient case management. 2, automate routine tasks, and that will in turn into some time-saving automations. 3, task and deadline tracking. 4, improve communication channels. 5, streamline documentation management. 6, billing and time tracking. 7, custom workflows. 8, client collaboration. And 9, reporting and analytics. And I actually have a bonus for you, and that is training your team to be efficient at utilizing your case management system right out the gate. I want to go ahead and spend some time unpacking some of these, and I want to start with the one that I gave you as a bonus, and that is training your team. I have found that the firms that have been the most successful at utilizing the revamped or redesigned system that I've helped them build is through creating videos and ensuring that their team is well aware of some of those concepts and things that they've implemented once they've really flushed out all the ways that they want their firm to be efficient. So once you've realized some of the ways that you have developed or even fine-tuned some things for your system, it's definitely paramount to ensure that your team is on the same page with you. Whether it's creating standard operating procedures, creating walkthrough videos, creating some kind of manual, whatever it takes, however you want to go ahead and do that, it is in your best interest to do that, because it's going to make sure that your team, as well as you, are set up for success and saving time. That means less time that you're spending having to walk each new person that gets onboarded in your company on that system. By having different things in place, whether it's a SOP or a video, you can then redirect that new employee after they've gone through the onboarding with HR. You can walk them through where to find those videos to ensure that they're set up for success, and you're not spending your hard-earned time that could be spent on facilitating and assisting your clients with their needs, training your internal team on how to use the system and how to use the system the way that you designed it to be used. So that's one thing that I think that is definitely important and really does ensure that timing's being saved, because that's one thing that I've heard is that a lot of attorneys spend a lot of time training their team. And by doing this and implementing something like this will ensure that you're saving yourself time and money. Now, taking it back and starting at the top, efficient case management. When it comes to efficient case management, it is highly, highly, highly important to ensure that your system is equipped with all of the different components that you need, because that's going to make sure that you end up saving time on the back end. That means every case number for every client, any nuances that a client has. If you're, for example, in the estate planning space and you know that your client is not accessible within the first 3 hours and you put that in the system, someone else is going to see that note and they're going to make sure that they don't contact that person and waste that time and waste firm dollars contacting that particular person when they know, well, when you know that that person is not available. So if 9 to 10 or 9 to 12 is not the best time to reach that client, making sure that it's in your system is going to in turn save you time as well as save your team time and also save the firm dollars as well. Another item to consider as well when it comes to case management is also to ensure that every single piece of note, anything that is relevant to the case, especially when it comes to litigation, it's inside of the system to make sure that you're saving yourself time later on. So it may take a little bit of time in the beginning to set up these components, but once it's set up properly, then you're not going back later on and redoing that. You're just fine tuning it and your team can then follow along. That brings me to number 2, which is automating routine tasks. I cannot tell you how many times I've worked with a client or I've been consulting with a potential attorney and they've told me that they don't have administrative tasks automated. It is in your best interest to do this. I have seen so many firms save anywhere from 1 to 5 hours daily once they've automated administrative tasks. Not only that, but the team that you have supporting you, if you're lucky to have a team, they're now being spent doing things that are in their best interest to bring in the firm money. Speaking with the client to make sure that they've completed their intake form properly, as opposed to spending time sending out a client engagement letter, as opposed to sending out an invoice. Automate those key components. It is required as a part of onboarding a new client, but that doesn't mean that your internal staff has to do it. That doesn't mean that you have to do it. I've seen so many firms spend so much time on those simple pieces, and once we've set it up for success and automated those things, game changer. Game changer. Automate tasks, automate different types of things that are administrative that you're not making any money on. If you're wasting money on it, automate it, because you're saving time and saving firm dollars as well. Task and deadline tracking. Oh my gosh. I cannot tell you how many times I have worked with a firm as a paralegal and they don't have certain things updated inside of their systems and they've been missing deadlines. I remember an instance where I was working with a firm in New York, and one of the things that they complained about was that they weren't meeting deadlines when it came to certain things involving interrogatories and discovery, right? So when it came to discovery, you have certain deadlines that you have to meet, and the system might have had those deadlines in there, but there weren't any tasks in there to remind the different players inside of the firm that they needed to work on certain things. Needless to say, they were missing a couple of different deadlines that were really not in their best interest to miss, discovery being one of them. And once we were able to figure out what the root cause of it was, we implemented a couple of different tasks that would basically send reminders by email. But as soon as the user logged into the system, it was popping up as a message like, hey, do not forget that this deadline is coming up and you need to prepare X, Y, and Z. Not only that, but it allowed them to be proactive and train the client to ensure that the client was delivering the key components that they needed to, so that both the firm and the client were working together to ensure that the discovery deadline was not being missed. It is in your best interest to use your system. And the only way to do that is to spend the time in the beginning to ensure that the different tasks and deadlines are all properly flushed out inside of the CRM. Improved client communication channels. Guys, I love client portals. I think that client portals are amazing. But outside of client portals, it's internal communication, right? And a lot of the different CRM systems that exist today allow for you to communicate with your team internally right inside of that CRM. Let's use that. You have systems like Lawcus, you have systems like Lawmatics, you have systems like Cosmolex, all of these different systems. Shoot, my case, all of these systems have the ability to communicate internally and ensure that everyone's on the same page. And not only that, but it stores that information so that whenever someone new decides to come into work into the firm, they're able to see all of those communications and be able to keep up with the different updates that were going back and forth between the attorney and the other staff members, or between the paralegals, or between the legal assistants. All the communications are there. Now, I'm not saying that things that don't involve the actual client matter should be in there. We have to definitely keep it intentional and keep it focused on what the system is made to be used for. So we're not going to be using the system to talk about our favorite colors or anything like that. We're going to be using it to talk about what's essential to that particular matter. But once we're utilizing the system to communicate properly, especially internal communications, it's a no-brainer, because then it ensures that everyone is actually on the same page and everyone's seeing all the communications. And this also goes to emails. I cannot tell you how many times I've worked with an attorney where they're like, client sent me an email, I can't find the email. The case management system stores all of those email communications right there under the matter. So anytime a client sends you an email, you're easily able to pin it to that matter so that you can go back and see it later. So you're not fishing through thousands and thousands of emails trying to get to the right one for this particular matter. And it doesn't even matter if they have multiple matters. You're still working efficiently. You're still saving yourself time, because instead of going through your email client or your inbox, you're going right to that matter and you're seeing that information right then and there. Game changer. The next topic is actually going to be document management. Now, a lot of these systems are integrated with your favorite filing system. So your Dropboxes, your Google Drives, your SharePoint, they're all integrated within the CRM. Now, I'm not saying that every CRM utilizes all of those programs, but definitely if you're a user that's utilizing Box, for example, you're going to want to make sure that your CRM is compatible and integrated with Box. Same thing with Dropbox, same thing with SharePoint, the same exact thing with Google Drive. If you're using a system to store your client files, let's go ahead and make sure that it's working intuitively with your CRM system. To take it a step further, let's talk about naming conventions. You can have your system set up immediately to set up those naming conventions so that you're not spending time one by one assigning each file to a particular matter and putting that information in there. Lawcus is beautiful about ensuring that not only is the naming convention set up properly for when a new matter comes on board, but it goes a step further and it allows you to set up the files that are stored within those particular systems. Don't worry, we're going to do a quick walkthrough and I'll show, that will be one of the things that I show you here in just a bit. I can't end a video without showing you a walkthrough, so we'll cover that in a second. But it's beautiful because then you have the ability to make sure that anytime a new client comes on board, especially if it's for a particular practice area that always has the same set of files, you're setting that up right from the beginning so that you're not doing that as people come on board. You're saving yourself that time. You're also saving yourself that time with ensuring that any templates that you are normally sending out on a recurring basis is all set up inside of the system. So if you're a firm that sends out engagement letters, definitely make sure that's something that's inside of your system. If you're a firm that utilizes NDAs, for example, you're going to want to make sure that's set up as a template in your system so you're able to send that out immediately. Any type of document that you use on a recurring basis, definitely make a list of it and ensure that your system is already set up, because that's going to definitely save you time and money. All right, so billing and time tracking. I have my own secret sauce when it comes to time tracking, and it works very well for me. I'll probably try to cover that in a later video. If you leave a comment below, I'll share that with you for sure. But I definitely feel that when it comes to your case management system, you want to make sure that you're billing and time tracking for everything. I have even taken it a step further to ensure that on a every other day basis, I send out a reminder as a task to the attorney as well as to the staff members to ensure that they are putting in their time. So the time should be put in on a ongoing basis, and so to ensure that I'm setting the firm up for success. Whenever I'm working on an implementation for CRM bills, that's one of the things that I'm focusing on, is ensuring that the system is queued up already pre-populated with some of those tasks, and I'll ask the attorney what makes sense for them. Do they want it to be sent out every day by the end of the day to make sure that all the time's put in for that day? Do they want to make sure that that's done on a weekly basis? I try to make sure that I'm working in tandem with the attorney and what their vision is, but it's important to make sure that you're tracking your time, and it's definitely important to make sure that when it comes to sending out bills and invoices to the client, we're doing that on a consistent and recurring basis, and we can have the system honestly set up to generate and send out those invoices for us. Or we can even have it to where we're just putting in a task and telling someone within the team to go ahead and make sure that they're generating those time entries and then sending out that bill. I believe in automating certain things, so I would strongly suggest implementing some type of automation so that you're not manually having to generate and send out bills every single week, and you're having the system work for you. Custom workflows. When it comes to custom workflows, I am obsessed with automating and setting up workflows for every single thing under the sun. If I know that I'm going to be sending out communications when a particular person is converted to a matter, I'm setting that up as an automation. I'm making sure that the firms that I consult with and I support are setting that up as an automation. If I know that a firm focuses on discovery, and I know that, once the documents are filed, that there needs to be some communication sent out to the client to be able to make sure that, mandatory disclosures, for example, is something that is top of mind for the client so that they can start preparing those documents. We're sending an email to them letting them know that. Not only that, but when it gets to the point where that mandatory disclosure becomes required, we're putting a tag, we're putting some type of something inside of the system to trigger the client to receive a communication, to trigger the client to receive a link to upload those documents. Whatever the case is, however your firm is ran, we're ensuring that we're setting that up right out the gate to save the firm time. Client collaboration. I know that I covered this in a video at some point or another, but I am just going to stress it here. I think that there is a beautiful, harmonious marriage between when a law firm and a client can work together and collaborate. And I found, just my humble opinion, that client portals are game changer when it comes to something like this, because you're setting the firm up to ensure that your client is feeling like they're everything to you. And we all know that clients, no matter how many clients you have, they always assume that they're the only one and they're the ones that should be getting all of your time and your attention and whatever the case is. And client portals kind of help with that. As funny as you may find it, it does save time. I have found the firms that I've helped when it comes to implementation, when it comes to ensuring that the client portal is also a part of the life cycle of the firm, a part of the SOPs and whatever the process is for the firm, has really elevated that particular firm and also saved the firm time. So instead of sending an email until the client for something, the message is sent securely through the client portal, especially if you need the client to do something. I've even taken it a step further and had the client assign tasks. So when I'm building out the workflows, I'm also ensuring that inside of the workflow, there are client specific tasks that they get to see on their end to ensure that they're getting exactly what they need out of the firm. And the attorney is now not spending time on the phone or having an employee spend time on the phone to then tell the client what exactly they need to do, because we're setting up those specific tasks inside of the client portal so that they can see it on their end, and then the client is responsible for uploading that information. The same thing goes with status updates. Now, when it comes to status updates, we're updating that client within the client portal and then giving the client the opportunity to book time if they wanted to have a specific conversation on whatever that update is. That's another way that I've found that it's saved time, and it's also saved the attorney time to focus on preparing for trial or preparing for a case or doing whatever is necessary to be able to move the firm forward and ensure that they're doing what they're licensed to do for that client. And it works together. And there's no administrative component to it for the attorney side of things. And also, if you're the only attorney working within your firm and you don't have that kind of time, it's definitely in your best interest to be utilizing the client portal for client collaboration, because you don't have that time to be spending anyway. All right, so the last thing I want to make sure that I cover is reporting and analytics. A lot of these systems are amazing and beautiful at ensuring that when it comes to reporting and analytics, everything is working the way that it needs to, and this is no different. So one of the things that you can do is create an automation to where it's running a report so that you're seeing what your return on investments are, as well as where your referrals and things are coming from. But let's say it's not that. Let's say that you want to run a report to make sure that you're sending out, like I said, bills, right? You can have the system pretty much assist you with doing that, and that will also save you time and eventually save you money as well. I promise to show you a quick walkthrough of some of these things in use, so I'm going to go ahead and cover that right now. Okay, so let's go ahead and go into the CRM, and I'm going to show you a couple of things. I am going to spend time in this example utilizing the Lawcus CRM for this, and then maybe at some point I will show another version of the video showcasing a different case management system with some of the things that I'm showing here today. If there's a specific case management system that you would like to see, though, leave me a comment and I'll make sure that I create a specific video just for that and release it on the channel so that everyone else who's possibly using that system has access to it too. Let's go ahead and jump into it. And so here we are inside of Lawcus, and one of the things that I mentioned specifically through Lawcus that I wanted to talk about was the name filing convention, right? And so when it comes to the name filing convention, in order to do this, you would just need to go to settings. And once you're inside of settings, you're going to want to make sure that you're inside of the firm settings. Okay, so once you're inside of firm settings, you're going to want to make sure that you go to the practice area defaults. And once you're in here, you're going to see something that shows default document folders. And in order to do this in Lawcus, you'll then add a folder. And by adding a folder, it will add the folder for that particular practice area. Be mindful here, though, that each practice area you would have to click on it and then add the folders after, right? So if you're a firm that has corporate, you'll want to make sure that you select corporate, and then when it comes to add a folder, maybe you'll do client produced documents. Maybe you'll add a folder for, let's say, any formation documents that you create, so formation documents for the firm. And let's say there's any due diligence that you have to do to sell a firm, or not to sell a firm, but to help the client sell their business or something like that, then you'll add something for due diligence. Any case research that you might do along the way, you'll probably even add a folder for that. And this will then ensure that once you are bringing in that particular, type of matter, once that becomes into play, then these folders all come up as populated folders for that particular case file inside of the filing system, or where the client files are kept. And that's what you'll do whenever you want to make sure that you're setting up any type of documents or files for your cases inside of your filing system that you're using for your client documents, right? Another thing that I mentioned in earlier on was the naming conventions for the matters, and that's also something that you can do here as well. So under matter numbering, you can also make sure that you're setting your firm up properly right from the beginning and ensure that the information is kept here properly. And if you're utilizing Lawcus, you can also have it set up to be for the billing type. So you can modify the billing type, and you can also modify the matter value, the estimated value that a particular matter will cost right from the beginning. And you're really going to want to make sure that you're having the particular firm practice areas properly identified, because that's going to make sure that this information is utilized properly and effectively, and also to make sure that you're saving yourself time later on as well. All right, so I figured since I'm going to spend some time showing you Lawcus, I can also show you the Lawmatics platform. And through an automation, you can do this by having the entry condition be once the engagement letter is signed. So once the new client signs the engagement letter, you can then have the system create folders. You don't have to necessarily do it based on when the engagement letter is signed. You can also even do it based on an invoice being paid. So whether it's an engagement letter being signed or an invoice being paid, You can have that be the entry condition, and then once the entry condition is set up, you can then have it create folders. And so I only added one folder at this point, but like, you do have the option to hit add folder, and it will keep on adding those folders for you. So that way, as soon as the matter is as soon as the client has paid their invoice or signed the engagement letter, these folders are starting to be built out intuitively, and they're integrating with your system that you use for your client filing, for storing client files. So that way you're set up for success. I just wanted to show you that that is an option inside of Lawmatics as well, and it can be done through an automation, which is beautiful because you're also really making sure that you save time. I've seen attorneys waste a lot of time with these simple things like creating folders and sending out documents to be signed and things like that, and we don't have to do that. That's not something that needs to be done, and this will ensure that you don't have to spend time on those mundane administrative functions or tasks. When it comes to the document templates that I have mentioned, especially when it comes to assembling documents and things like that, inside of Lawcus you can do your document templates, and we spent some time covering this in a previous video, but you can always have your documents all here, your template documents here. And once you have your document, you'll also want to make sure that you use the custom fields to ensure that whenever you go to use one of the templates, it's already set up properly, and the custom fields that are identified within your firm are on that document, so that you're not doing that later. So if you set it up properly, it's definitely going to save you time when you're ready to go ahead and use these specific things. If you want to save your firm time, you're going to want to make sure that you take the time to set these things up in the beginning to save your firm time later on. So to take it away, there's many different ways that your firm can focus on saving time and utilizing the case management system or practice management system to save the firm time and money. And some of those ways consist of automating routine tasks, inserting different tasks and deadlines inside of the CRM, improving client communication, improving internal communications, improving, both sets of communications by utilizing the case management system, building out custom workflows, and also ensuring that you're streamlining your document filing system through automating the folders being created. And I've only scratched the surface with some of the things. I wanted to keep it high level, but I would love to hear what are some of the ways that you think that you as an attorney can do certain things to save yourself time. Did I touch on any of them here? Do you have a comment about anything, or you want me to spend a little bit more time building out a custom workflow inside of Lawcus or inside of a different case management system? Definitely feel free to leave a comment and let me know. In terms of this particular video, though, I have pretty much covered everything that I want to spend time on today, so I am going to go ahead and wrap this up. I hope that you found this video to be very helpful. Get in touch with me, subscribe to the channel so that you can be kept in the loop on future videos that I create on the channel like this one. And until the next video, have an amazing day and continue thriving with your systems.